So I am a fan of Dave Bautista. Not because he's a fellow Pinoy like me, or even for his pro wrestling. I really didn't follow him during that time and was unaware of his career in that aspect. Even his movies, guys, like I like his movies, but I'm just a fan of him overall. I think he seems like a cool cat, and I kind of just like Dave Bautista. With that said, there's another reason I like him a lot. And that reason is because he is a BJJ practitioner, and unknown to a lot of people is that Dave Bautista is actually an MMA fighter with a 1-0 professional MMA record. For some people, this isn't new, and for a lot of people, it is. And of course, being a fan of Dave Bautista, I thought I would go back and cover his one and only MMA fight. It looks like this started in 2010 after Dave Bautista, his first exit from the WWE, he expressed a desire to get into MMA. Now, within that time frame, they had a lot of pro wrestlers getting into MMA. You had Brock Lesnar, who'd crossed over. You had Bobby Lashley, and these guys were doing pretty good. So it wasn't surprising that somebody of the status of Bautista was looking to get into that. With that said, his pro debut in MMA took place in 2012. So let's take a look at this fight. So Bautista's pro debut took place on CES on a CES fight card, and looks like the initial opponent that he had dropped out or just couldn't make the fight date, and they didn't want to shift it, so he did find a late replacement, and that replacement was in the form of a gentleman named Vince Lucero. And this guy was no rookie. He had a 40-fight record. Many considered him to be a journeyman, which there were a lot of those guys in MMA. I'm sure there still are. But it looks like Lucero had 40-plus fights, so they weren't giving Bautista an easy tomato can or someone making their debut. This guy was supposed to be a seasoned MMA veteran. Now, what blows my mind is like the weight scale. Like, this guy came in at 300 pounds. Now, Bautista came in as a professional. He weighed at the limit of 265 for heavyweight, so props to him. I'm sure he could have came in much bigger, given the size he had in the WWE. But yeah, this guy coming in at 300 pounds, that's excessive, but I'm sure it was something agreed upon given the fact that this guy took the fight on short notice. Now, your initial glimpse at these two guys, you couldn't be more different. You've got, Lucero, who looks like a 300-pound man who probably could drop down to light heavyweight or even middleweight given his height. Bautista looks like a physical specimen of a man like he always does. Actually, a little more lean than you've seen him in movies. But again, I'm sure he did that during fight camp to ensure that he was in great shape and to make the heavyweight limit. People probably kind of wonder what you're going to see with a fight like this. Immediately when you look at it, you just think, all right, you look at their body types and you think, regardless of Bautista's experience, you just figure he's going to run through this guy, right? And that's our problem. At times we tend to judge things early by what we see without fully knowing what certain people's capabilities are. That's just a side note. All right, we're going to get this fight started. Again, you're going to assume Bautista's just going to run through this dude. Fight starts, touch of gloves. And, Lucero comes in, starts throwing that overhand right. It's sloppy, but Bautista's eating those. He obviously doesn't have great striking. Lucero doesn't have great striking, obviously. But, Bautista kind of took some rights that he should have seen coming. They were kind of slow, but I'm sure there's nerves and all these other things going on right now. He's pressed up against a cage. That's a lot of pressure, a lot of weight. Again, looking at these two guys, it still looks like Bautista might be the bigger, stronger guy, but that's 300 pounds pressing you up against the cage. He could be trying to wear him out, a stall tactic. There's nothing like grand happening here from MMA perspective. But clinch work against the cage is hard, man. That's a hard fight, and that could be the experience. I don't want to give this muscled up guy the space to work. I want to press him. And then here we go. Sloppy hands, but he's landing. Bautista's hands are hanging about chest level, and Lucero's getting him in. He's doing what I call swimming. He's kind of just throwing his punches like he's swimming. Again, he doesn't have clean punches. So for those to be getting in like that, that just shows you the low level of Bautista's striking. Of course, I'm not trying to be too harsh. This is his first fight. But smart move by Lucero. Let's just press him up against the cage again. That's veteran stuff right there. Let me push him up against the cage, wear him down. Hopefully, be able to take advantage later. You would think that he would disengage because he was obviously winning with the hands, but he probably doesn't want to give Bautista a chance to pull anything off. That's a nice like position switch by Bautista with the underhook. That's kind of a given. When you're pressed up against the cage, you always want to be able to do that. That's 101 MMA. You know, a little knee. He's putting his weight in there. He's putting his strength into Lucero a little bit. And Lucero, again, pressed him up against the cage. Now, this part coming up is kind of aggravating. Look at him. He's hamming up for the camera. He's waving. He's kind of goofing around. I hate that stuff because if you got all that energy to play a fool and goof around like that, because you're whatever the case, you think that you're doing well, finish the fight, and then you can showboat all you want. Dan Miragliotta he's not having it. He's already kind of tired of it. He gave them a warning earlier to stop talking to each other. So there's obviously a little bit of riffing going back and forth. So he steps in and breaks them up. So finally, Bautista decides to go for a takedown here. And this is an impressive takedown. You know, I don't know his wrestling pedigree, but he, shoots in, takes the double, and immediately to side control. So here we see strong grappling from Bautista, right? He moves in to pin that arm. Lucero doesn't seem to really know much grappling or have the ability to do much. He puts his leg up to block the full mount. Bautista's trying to sneak his head in there. Looks like he's working for a crucifix position. If he could pin that arm and get his head underneath, he would basically get a crucifix and be able to pound Lucero out from a crucifix position. But he feels the weight shift and goes to a mounted position. Sometimes it's hard to mount someone of that size, but he gets the mount. Lucero rolls to his belly. That's an instinct that a lot of people have, not always the smartest thing. And Bautista's on his back. Like a quick burst or scramble from Lucero could knock him off and create some chaos, but I don't think he has it in him. I just don't think he has great grappling, to be honest. But he probably just doesn't have the athleticism or the strength. He's getting worn down, and all it is Bautista putting his weight down, and that's jiu-jitsu, controlling someone bigger than you. Bautista is starting to ground and pound. Lucero has no answer, and he's just holding him. He's looking for chokes. He's looking for submissions and, some more ground and pound. Flattens him out. Classic. Elbows and some G and P, man. You got someone flattened, man. This is what you do. You pound them out. And there we go. Lucero has no answer. He's not intelligently defending himself. Fight is over. Again, I think these guys were talking to themselves a lot. Bautista is pretty upset. Looks like they're still yelling at each other. That's just stupid. Okay? I don't know. I don't know if this Lucero guy was like, this is my moment. I'm fighting this celebrity. I'm just going to ham it up. Or I don't know. I try not to I'm not going to try to figure it out. But obviously there was some jawing going on. But in the end, here we are. Dave Bautista, I believe he was in his 40s at this time, winning his pro MMA debut. Very cool, man. Very cool. So, and during the post-fight interview, Bautista states that he plans to keep fighting, which did not happen. We all know that. But this is mainly because, again, guys, this is 2012. After this fight, Bautista got heavily into the acting, and his acting career just took off. It's still skyrocketing. He blew up. So, of course, I'm sure he lost the desire and the interest to continue an MMA career alongside his movie career. With that said, I wonder if he still does jiu-jitsu. Now, I know that he earned a purple belt under Cesar Gracie, and I think that's really cool. But I don't think he still practices jiu-jitsu because he earned that purple belt in, I believe, 2014. At least by now, if he was even practicing inconsistently, but still training a couple times a week, he probably would have gotten his brown belt at least by now. So I don't know if he's practicing jiu-jitsu anymore, which is a shame, man. His passion during that time was so fervent to the point of opening a BJJ school, and I don't know if he still has that either. Either way, man, this was a cool little factoid. If you did not know that David Bautista had an MMA record or had a professional MMA fight, and that he was a jiu-jitsu practitioner, I think it's very cool, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you enjoy the content, please be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.